Good to see you all this evening. We'll sing 543 before we have our prayer and go to classes. Redeemed, 543. Sweet is the song I'm singing today. I'm redeemed. I'm redeemed. Trouble and sorrow have vanished away. I have been redeemed. I'm redeemed. I love divine. Glory, glory, Christ is mine. Christ is mine. All to Him I now resign. I have been redeemed. Precious indeed is my Savior to me. I'm redeemed. I'm redeemed. Happy in glory. Someday I shall be. I have been redeemed. I'm redeemed. I love divine. Glory, glory, Christ is mine. Christ is mine. All to Him I now resign. I have been redeemed. Pray, please. Father in heaven, we're so thankful for the time that we can come together tonight to study your word. The recognition, Father, that you have redeemed us through your Son. We've been obedient to your word and lived faithfully. Father, we pray as we go through this night that we can see all the blessings that we have through your word, and we can see all the ways that we can serve you better. Help us to build each other up in this time. Help us to see ways in which we can teach others and make your kingdom greater each and every day that we live. Be with those that are sick, those that are suffering. We know, Father, that you're aware of all things, and you can do all things to make this a better night for those that are in a difficult place. Help us and let us to put out our distractions of our life and focus solely on what we can do to serve you. Forgive us our sins. In Christ's name.
Just take that on. All right. Here. Too much partying, I guess. Hello, all day. Easy. On both, you make 2 more copies. see everybody tonight. Appreciate you being out. Hope y'all had some good time with your family and Santa Claus was good to you and all this other stuff. You sleep that late in the morning sometimes. Amen. Ron will make two more. John chapter 1. We finished up Luke last week. I promised we'd go into John next. We'll see how this turns out. John chapter 1 is where we're going to be going. Let's begin in John chapter 20 first and look at verses 30 and 31 before we carry on any further. John chapter 20. As we looked at Luke, Luke is a synoptic gospel. It looks at the general life of Jesus Christ. John deals a lot more with the thrust of his teachings and deals in a lot of detail about the last week of Jesus' life. But he does deal with several miracles as far as that goes, but not as many as the other ones. But what we want to look at, the theme or what John, the thrust of John is in John 20 verses 30 and 31. Is those two. That's it. That's it. Yep. Just hold on to that one, Roy, if you don't need it. John 20, 30 and 31 says, and many other signs truly did Jesus in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book, but these are written that ye might believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and that believing you might have life through his name. And so if you wanted to summarize what John is about, John is written to those who are believing to reinforce their beliefs as far as Jesus Christ being the Son of God, but also to encourage others with the information that he's got, that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. So if you will go from there over to John chapter 1, we'll start there. We're going to look at the first 18 verses in John chapter 1 tonight, and then we'll go from there. John 1, let's read John 1 through 18, just so we'll have a background for what we're talking about and the questions there. It says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men, and the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. There was a man sent from God, whose name was John. The same came for a witness to bear witness of the light, that all men through him might believe. He was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. That was the true light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. But as many as received him, to them gave he the power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name, which were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. John bare witness of him, and cried, saying, This was he, of whom I spake. He that cometh after me is preferred before me, for he was before me. And of his fullness have we all received, and grace for grace. For the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. No man hath seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father, he hath declared it. All right, question number 1. It says, what does John teach concerning the birth of Jesus? Verse number 1. Does John teach anything about the birth of Jesus? No. John does not carry anything about the birth of Jesus. If you wanted to go about the birth of Jesus, you would have to go into the Gospel, Matthew and of Luke. Those are the two that carry the birth of Jesus as far as the details surrounding him, as far as in Bethlehem and the wise men are surrounding the actual birth of Jesus are covered in other books of the New Testament. John presupposes that the people who he is talking to in his letter are aware of this particular situation, so he does not go into that aspect of Jesus' life. But looking at question number 2, it says, what does the term "in the beginning was the Word" imply about Jesus? In the beginning was the Word. Alright, so John goes prior to the birth of Jesus when he starts his gospel and deals with the idea that Jesus was before or at the beginning, when there was the creation, Jesus was involved in that. And so the implication is that he was there before his birth on earth. And so he is trying, or his focus is on implying or teaching the fact that Jesus Christ was before his human appearance, birth, however you wanted to put that. But in the beginning implies that Jesus Christ was before the creation, and he was there at the creation. Alright? Question number 3. What does the word "with" tell us about Jesus and God the Father? Verse number 1. Alright, he was with him. When you say that you are with somebody, that implies that there is more than one person there. So it says that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. That shows the relationship between Jesus Christ and God the Father. It shows that they are separate entities. Jesus and God are one, but they're not one person. You have Jesus the Father, or God the Father, and Jesus the Son, who are separate entities, but they are both God of themselves. And that word "with" it tells us that Jesus Christ, though he is God, he is not God the Father. There are two separate beings there. And so we need to be very careful. Our people don't do that. If you look at other religious groups, Jehovah's Witness, they don't believe in that particular aspect of it. So that's something important that John teaches there as far as belief in Jesus. Question number 4. What does the word "was" tell us about Jesus and God in verse 1? Alright, past tense, but. If "with" tells us the relationship of God and Jesus in the sense of he was with him and they were separate individuals, then what does the term "the Word was God" tell us? Alright, in the beginning he was there, was before the creation. We got that. We got that he's with, in the sense that he was with God in the creation. The word "was" God means that he was, alright, the word was is that he is divine in nature. Alright, so he was not a lesser God or something inferior to God the Father, but he was equal to God the Father. He was divine in nature. And so John here in John 1 goes all the way back, and he uses the same words in the beginning as is used in Genesis 1:1. So he's talking about the same idea that God, Jesus Christ, as the second part of the Godhead, was with God in the beginning, and he was also God himself in the sense of his having the same powers, the power of all power, all knowing, and being everywhere, omniscient. So he was not inferior. So that's what John is implying or teaching when he begins his gospel here in John chapter 1, even at verse 1. Question number 5. What was Jesus' role in the creation? Is it? I got the wrong one? Verse 3 says, all things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. We do understand that the term "word" there speaks of or is Jesus Christ. So what the question is what was his role in the creation? He was the creator. It was by the design of God that he would put together or create all things. Jesus was the acting part within the creation. Well, it was. Yes, but it says specifically, and what he's trying to tell the people right here. Yeah.
God.
Right. All right.
God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit.
I agree. All right. But in this particular situation, who does it point specifically to the creating part? Jesus. Right. So I'm not saying that John he's not deleting God the Father from the process at all, but specifically given the role of the creating itself was done by Jesus Christ, according to John 1 verse 3. All things were made by Him. Okay? Number 6. How is Jesus both light and light to mankind? Verse number 5. It says, and the light shineth in darkness. And, verse number 4. In Him was life, and the light was the light of men.
Tell us that it's talking about spiritual light, bring about all things.
All right. How was Jesus the light in creation? If He created all things, what did He do? Jesus, the Word, created the world. He spoke the world into existence. That's what it says. And He spoke and it came and He created the heavens and the earth. Yep. All right, but we're looking at Jesus in the sense of what John's talking about here. And I'm not trying to detract from the fact that God was involved in it, but what we're trying to prove here, what John is trying to prove here, is that Jesus Christ is divine in nature. He is deity. He is equal with God. And He was involved directly in the creation of all the world. So it says that He was the light. What does Genesis 2 and verse 7 say? Well, I think it's 2 and 7, if I remember right, says, and He breathed into him breath of life. Read it, make sure. You got to check it. You fast finders on the phone, probably whip it out. All right. So could we say then that Jesus Christ was a part of breathing the breath of life into mankind? If He created all things? All right, so Jesus, and He said this, and I think it was John chapter 12, said that just as God has life, the Son has life in Him also.
Let us make man in our image, after our likeness.
Okay, and that's speaking of the spiritual aspect of mankind. Okay, man has a three-part being. That's good. All right. I think it's talking about spiritual life or life in general. Yes, the soul or the spirit of mankind was provided by Jesus Christ to mankind. We understand that Jesus had life provided to man. Say what? Oh, okay. All right. So that's Michael Shepard saying that life being God breathed life or spiritual life into mankind and gave him a soul, an eternal soul. All right. So we understand in the life aspect of it, in Him was life. He gives all of us life, or the spirit, the eternal soul. What about the light? In Him was life, and in Him was the light. Alright? Hope, it's specifically talking about the hope and salvation. We know that Jesus Christ came into the world to save mankind, and He was the light, or the hope of all mankind as far as salvation is concerned. Sure. Alright? Number 7, how is the term darkness used here in verse 5? It says that the light shined in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. What is the term darkness talking about here? Ignorance. Alright, ignorance might be a thing in the sense of He comes on the scene and the world is in darkness and not knowing how to eliminate or get back to God as far as getting rid of their sins. So He's shining the light on ignorant men and trying to show them what they have to do in order to obtain salvation. Yeah. All right. Darkness is ignorance, lack of knowledge, spiritually blind, we could say, as far as that goes. So Jesus shined into the darkness of mankind. Sonia?
Old Testament, it's written for the Jews to look for the Messiah and to watch for his coming, and to everything down to the point of his birth was everything pointed to it, and yet they were still in darkness and still didn't understand and didn't more comprehend it. So to me, that's what it's all about.
Okay. All right, well, comprehended there. When we use that word comprehend, what do we think of? Understanding. All right. The word here, if you get into the Greek or the Thayers or whatever, that word comprehend lends itself more to rejection or not obtaining to whatever is being offered to them. So it's not just a matter of ignorance in the sense, but it's a rejection of God or the things that the knowledge of what a person could have. So it's shining into darkness, and the darkness is rejecting it. It's like going into a cloud and the light cannot penetrate it. But he's shining there to try to get in and make men aware of what's necessary in order to be saved. Number 8, comprehend. We kind of hit on that one just now. Who is John referencing to in verses 6 through 8? You got that, Dave? All right. It says that John bare witness of him and cried, saying, verse 15. So he's talking about, John is writing about John the Baptist. He's trying to prove that Jesus Christ is deity. He's trying to prove that he's all-powerful. And he first talks about him in the sense of his being in relationship to God the Father and being equal to him. And then he talks about John. As we looked at Luke, he talked about the people coming to John, and what was one of the main questions that they kept asking John the Baptist? Are you? Yeah, are you the Messiah? And he said that he was not, but that he was there to point the way to Jesus Christ, that was, he had been called by God, he had been given a special assignment by God, but he was not the Messiah, not the one to be looked for, but he knew that he would be coming. All right, verse number 9 uses the term true light. It says that was the true light. Speaking of what John was pointing to, and Jesus Christ says, he was not, verse 8, he was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light, and that was the true light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. All right, he was the forerunner of Jesus. The true light was Jesus Christ. When we talk about the true light, it's talking in reference to eliminating any other source of light. If we go to John 14:6, I think that's a verse that probably all of us know. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, the life. No one cometh to the Father but by me. He is pointing to the fact that he was the true light. And that separates everything else. What did Jesus tell the people when he was, the apostles specifically, when he was going back? If you think about Matthew 24, we look at it in Luke as well, when he was saying there were going to be many false prophets who would come in and try to lead them and said, don't follow them. If you're on the housetop, don't go back in. If you're in the field, don't go back. The warnings that there would be many people who would come in the name of being a Messiah to try to save them or to lead them in the wrong direction. There are many false lights. And so John is saying this is that. And that is a specific term. It doesn't leave any room for more than one. That. And so we need to be very clear that that's what John was pointing to, is that this was the only way. And in our day and age, that's a sticking point for a lot of people, especially in this political correct world that we live in. If you say something is distinct and specific, you're being mean and hateful or unloving. And so the idea that there is only one and only one way is frowned upon, and really worse than that, it is oftentimes treated harshly or mistreated, because you will make a stand for that. But John was trying to tell us that this was just the one and only way, and that was through Jesus Christ. Number 11. Who is being contrasted in verses 10 and 11? 10 says, He was in the world, and the world was made by Him, and the world knew Him not. He came into His own, and His own received Him not.
That's the Jews, isn't it?
Alright? It's, His own would be the Jews. So if you look at the first verse there, verse 10, he was talking about the world in general. So that would take in everybody. You had an idolatrous world that he came into. Even as you look at the New Testament church being spread out, they were having to deal with idolatry. Huh?
He was the creator of all sin and all things.
He was a creator, but he came into the world and nobody recognized him for who he was, or accepted him for who he was in that respect. But it does distinguish between the two in that respect. The Jews should have known, and some of them did recognize who he was. Think about the apostles and those disciples that were with him. But the majority of the world had no clue of what was being offered to them because they had gotten so far away from what true religion was. Only the Jews had the right concept of the one God, and most of the world hated them even back then as far as that goes, and tried to destroy them then. But what is drawing a picture here, John's drawing a picture, is the whole world is in darkness. The whole world is in rejection of Jesus Christ. The Jews who had the right to know, or the ability to know, rejected him, but the rest of the world is in darkness because of the time that people had gone away from the truth and the way that the world had turned as far as truth was concerned. Number 12. What is the power spoken of by John in verse number 12?
Gospel.
Alright, the power is found in the gospel. If you look at the idea behind it, the power to become, that word there is the privilege or the right to become. Those people who believe in Jesus Christ being the Son of God, they have the right to, or the privilege to, become the sons of God. Of course, it's not, a lot of times people stop right there at that point and say, it says there, all that believe on His name or believe in His name, He gives them the right to be the Son of God. And what do people do with that? All you have to do is believe.
Believe in yeah, that's right. But then you can go into another. We keep on reading. I don't know about John or not, but that's what it says, that some priests believe, but they confess.
Yeah. So, they believe. You can look at James 2. The devils believe and tremble. So they've got some emotional connection to it. But so we can't stop right there. But what this is talking about is it gives them the ability or the right or the privilege to become God's sons, or the sons of God in that. And that can be carried on through as far as the gospel is concerned, in being obedient to the gospel of Jesus Christ, and that power is involved in that. We can go Romans 1:16 in that as far as further study. Number 13. In what way do we become a son of God? Verse number 12 says that He gives them the right to become the sons of God. But I wanted to look at 1 John 3 and verse 1. First John 3. What does that say about the sons of God?
We should be called the sons of God, and therefore us alone
Okay. Is there a difference between being called a son and being a son? Well, if you look at it in John right here, it calls Him the only begotten Son of God. What does that only begotten mean? Singular. He has only one begotten Son. Alright, so if you look at us in the sense of we're not begotten, we're not actually the Son of God in that respect. We are adopted children by being obedient to the gospel of Jesus Christ. We have have that right and privilege because we've obeyed the gospel. It's not exactly the same, but we do have, if you adopt a child, they have the same rights of inheritance that the children do in that respect. We have the same privileges, opportunities as a part of the family, but we are not the actual child of God as Jesus Christ is. So there is a difference in that, but we still have the benefits of being the child of God. But He's called us or adopted us because of our obedience or taking part in the power that He's provided for us in the belief of Jesus Christ. Number 14, what events might be referenced by John's statement, "We beheld His glory," verse number 14. All right, that would be one. I would definitely think when you think about "we beheld His glory," and Peter talks about it in 1 Peter, about we were there, and it was not some figment of our imagination or anything like that. We beheld His glory, the only glory of God the Father there. So in the Transfiguration, John was there, and Peter was there, and who else was there? Who? John, Peter, Paul was not yet, he was not even on the scene. What was the inner circle? James. All right. The inner circle was Peter, James, and John. They had the privilege of going up and seeing the Transfiguration. John alludes to it here. Peter alludes to it as well in his first epistle, I think it is. So they had the opportunity to see the Godhead, especially in the Transfiguration, as far as the glory of God as He was transformed there before Mount the Transfiguration. But they also saw the glory of Jesus Christ in other ways, besides in the Transfiguration, in what Jesus did as far as the healing of the sick and providing the cleansing of the devils and that sort of thing. They saw the glory of God working, and people said that a lot of times, and since that God is among men now, because this could not be done. So other people were aware of it, but they had a clearer picture of who Jesus Christ was, and so they were called to this end to proclaim or to witness the situation or to witness of Jesus Christ's divinity. Number 15, how was Jesus full of grace and truth? What does the word full mean? Completely. All right, so when we look at it, Jesus Christ was full of grace and truth. We understand what truth is, right? We don't have any problem with that. He had all truth. There was no addition or subtraction in the sense of Jesus had everything that was necessary for the salvation of mankind. What about full of grace? Now, forgiveness. All right. Forgiveness. All right. All right. In a general term, it would be that. What is grace? I've got down there number 16, define grace. What is grace?
God's forgiveness.
Unmerited favor. We know the definition, right? Receiving something that you don't deserve. Alright, so Jesus Christ was full of grace. He had everything that was necessary to give to us for what we didn't need. We can talk about forgiveness of sins. We can talk about the spiritual graces, as far as that goes. Everything that He had as far as the gifts to mankind were provided through Jesus Christ, Him alone. So He's full or complete as far as grace is concerned and truth. And I'm going to ask y'all, I had a discussion about this Sunday morning in the young kids class, as far as what's the difference between grace and mercy. Grace we can define unmerited favor, getting something you don't deserve. What is mercy?
When you do deserve it, and someone takes mercy on you, punish you.
All right. Grace is getting something that you don't deserve. Mercy is not getting something that you do deserve. And so there's a difference there. But God, Jesus Christ, is full of grace and mercy. And so sometimes we look at it, what we didn't deserve, Jesus provided for, but what we did deserve, He eliminated that from us from being Christians. So it's important to understand both concepts there. Number 17. In what sense was Jesus before John the Baptist? Verse number 15. For he was before me. Alright, so he was before him in the sense of he was there in the creation of the world. He was before the existence of John the Baptist. Is that what John the Baptist was talking about? His literal. If you look at the part before that, it says he was preferred before me. Alright, so he's also before him in the sense of Jesus Christ is higher in standing, and that was his point, his humility towards God, Jesus Christ was his name.
He also had to be wait, and he was prepared and waiting for Jesus came.
Okay, well he was, but what he's saying here in verse number 15 is that Jesus was there before he was, or he was in front of him. And the two concepts or the two ideas behind it, I think, probably with what he said as far as he's preferred before me, or he was putting Jesus Christ in his position as the Son of God, putting himself as the servant or just the forerunner, and making sure that the people understood that he was nothing. One of the things that I did look at as far as in preparation for this, that one is believed that the Epistle of John was written when John was in Ephesus. Before the destruction of Jerusalem, he had moved there and did quite a bit of teaching. Ephesus was an area where there was a prominent belief of a prominent group that were still following the teaching of John. If you look at Acts chapter 19, Paul taught, Priscilla and Aquila were, Aquila was teaching that John's baptism. If I'm right on that. And he had to be retaught. It was Apollos. Apollos was teaching that in that particular area. And so he had to be retaught that John's baptism was over and that Jesus Christ had come and that Jesus' baptism was now in place and he had to be rebaptized. But that was in the area of Ephesus where it was. And that's where John was when he wrote this, it's believed. And so there was a belief there. And so that particular idea of John the Baptist was prominent, a prominent thought there that John had to deal with while he was in Ephesus. All right, number 18. What does the term grace upon grace mean? Verse number 16. Let's see, it says, verse 14 says, and the Word was made flesh, dwelt among us, we beheld His glory, the glory as the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. And then 16 says, and of His fullness have all we received, and grace for grace. Any ideas about that? All I can give you is what I read on it as far as that goes, because I wasn't real sure myself. But, it's a literary term a lot of times that just means that shows more, or continually, more and more, as far as that goes. It's the same idea behind it. But also involved in that is you're making a comparison here between the old law and Moses and the new law in Jesus Christ. And so the old law had some of the benefits or some of the blessings in the sense that the Jews had the ability to roll their sins forward. They had a relationship with God. They had the ability to be righteous and wait on God, whereas the heathen, the idolatrous people, had no hope whatsoever. And so it's talking about the grace coming and adding grace to that of the Old Testament. Grace upon grace is Jesus Christ even added the additional part of grace that wasn't there under the Old Testament law. So that's the idea, I think, behind that, at least the general idea. Number 19, how does John contrast Jesus and Moses in verse number 17? you say that there were some benefits from what Moses gave? The law was by abiding by the law and living the law and practicing the law as far as the sacrificial nature of it, the animal sacrifices, the one time a year that the high priest went into the Holy of Holies and offered. The Jews had a benefit from it. But it was very tedious and very hard to follow the law of Moses because there were so many things that were enacted by that. But it had benefit. But then you look at what Jesus came and brought. It eliminated all the things that were done under the law in that respect and added forgiveness of sins and the hope of eternal salvation through the one sacrifice of Jesus Christ. So he contrasted in the sense of Moses was inferior, didn't have all the things to offer that
Don't you think that
Jesus did.
put it in terms of grace and truth? The way to God's grace and God's truth is that way. Slam in Jesus, nothing was on that. Gospel.
All right, already even in the law of Moses, as far as I go, there was something added.
That's Jesus' way. Grace and truth by Jesus Christ. I am the way, the way. No, the way. Moses was never the way. He was a way for a while. He was never the truth. The truth for a while. Jesus was the truth.
So Jesus eliminated the law of Moses, or did away with an inferior practice, and Hebrews talks about that to a great degree in the sense that if the old law had been perfect, then there would have been no need for a second one. And so that's why Jesus Christ came on the scene, because he had all that was necessary for a person to be saved. All right, number 20, last one. What distinction did Christ have that made him the only one to be qualified to reveal God?
One that's actually seen God.
All right, so in being divine and being with God and being eternal in nature, he had that relationship, and he was the only one that was qualified to do it. What about Moses? Did Moses see God?
I think it says saw once.
Yes. And in one place, I was reading, it says he talked face to face with God in the sense of, maybe not in the sense of like this, but he had that relationship, but it was still a far inferior relationship, and so he had not the ability to provide for them. And what was the Jews' biggest problem? They had
Verse 33, will go. John says, I knew him not. Jesus. He that sent me into the world, he that sent me into the world lost the place. Baptized in water, the same said to me, upon whom thou shalt send the Spirit sitting, remaining on him, the same as he that baptized with the Holy Ghost. He came to know Jesus and revealed him there.
moves on because God revealed to him how to know who he was. He whom all knows. So it's question right here, number 13. I didn't put it on here. I thought maybe I did, but it's verse 13, talking about the inability of anybody else to reveal God the Father and the confusion or the problem that the Jews had. And this is the thrust of what you look at in John 20, 30, 31. He's talking about what they need to believe and why. And this is the picture right here, why they could not, or why they couldn't comprehend or didn't comprehend or rejected Jesus Christ, which was born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. We have here three different distinct things that close the minds of people towards receiving Jesus Christ. What was the first one? Not by blood. What was the Jewish problem? We are the children of Abraham. Yeah, they thought that they had their relationship with God based upon blood. All right, we talked about the adoption of us by God, giving us the power to adopt, not by the will of man. People determine a whole lot of different things on how to get in the right relationship with God. And then the last one, not by the will of, or not by the flesh or not by the will of man, talking about, nobody has the right to determine or the ability to determine how they're going to get this relationship or this life, as John's describing it, in and of their own selves. We can't figure it out for ourselves. We can't provide what is necessary for forgiveness in our own lives, but only through God and Jesus Christ, His Son.
We have to know the facts and believe, obey the commands, and then enjoy the promises. That's really what the gospel is, which the Old Testament was not. It was not clear the plan of salvation. It was a way for them to receive forgiveness from God until the gospel came. And it is the power of God's salvation to every man to believe. Now, you first also agree.
It was just a schoolmaster to lead us to Christ. It just pointed the way to it. All right, we looked at that a lot. We looked in the sense of why they rejected the plan because of their blindness of heart, believing they were all right. All right, we got about 5 minutes for we'll run the rest of them out. So we'll go into John the Baptist next week and finish up John chapter 1. Appreciate you being here.
I know the story. But it's all over. Things feel belong to us. Things feel belong to us. Things unto us belong to us. Know it all. Then shall we know Him as we're known.
Jennifer Johnson has Christmas in the morning. We had ours there, it's been kind of blue. She had her 5 days, she had to go back. Maybe 100 degrees or more. I said, they come to our house this morning for breakfast.
What's fixing your hair?
Yeah, it hurt your eyes. Just struck by lightning.
He's laughing, but I know that. He's one of the shades. Oh, yeah.
There it is, Jake. That's where it's at. Tell us all.
Number 347 there, hymn of invitation. 347. Certainly grateful for everyone's presence tonight. Good crowd, yes, with us. We're glad to have everyone here. Hope everybody had a good holiday. Yesterday, we had the 13th day at my house. We're still carrying on. But we're going to move on. The end of the year's coming, and we got to make big plans for next year. Get on other things, Lord willing. But it's certainly great to be able to get together tonight and to think about things that are eternal in nature, to study God's Word, to think about our lives. We want to think about the extension of the Lord's invitation just a minute before we leave this place tonight. It's appropriate, it's good, and we should do it as often as we can. Think about things eternal. That's what we're going to think about in just a minute. If you have your Bibles, you might want to turn to Mark chapter 5. I'm going to read an account here and look at some attitudes for just a minute. Mark chapter 5. If you have your Bibles, we're going to talk about Jairus and his daughter, and a situation that happened that was discussed by Mark. And Mark chapter 5, beginning at verse 20, it says, "And when Jesus was passed over again by ship unto the other side, much people gathered unto him, and he was nigh to the sea. And behold, there cometh one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name. And when he saw him, he fell at his feet, and besought him greatly, saying, My little daughter lieth at the point of death. I pray thee, come and lay thy hands on her, that she may be healed, and she shall live. And Jesus went with him, and much people followed him and thronged him." And then dropping down to verse number 35, it says, "And while he yet spake, there came thither from the ruler of the synagogue's house certain which said, Thy daughter is dead. Why troublest thou the master any further? As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said unto the ruler of the synagogue, Be not afraid, only believe. And he suffered no man to follow him, save Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. And he cometh to the house of the ruler in the synagogue, and seeth the tumult, and them that wept and wailed greatly. And when he was come in, he said unto them, Why make ye this ado and weep? The damsel is not dead, but sleepeth. And they laughed him to scorn. But when he had put them all out, he taketh the father and the mother of the damsel in, and them that were with him, and entered in where the damsel was lying. And he took the damsel by the hand and said unto her, Talitha cumi, which is being interpreted, Damsel, I say to thee, arise. And straightway the damsel arose and walked, for she was of the age of 12 years, and they were astonished with great astonishment. And he charged them straitly that no man should know it, and he commanded that something should be given her to eat. You know, this story is important to us because it shows what people think about the resurrection. If you think about the different characters that are involved in this, you think about Jairus, his daughter, people who were involved in it, Peter, James, and John, and Jesus. All of them had a different perspective as far as the resurrection is concerned. You think first about Jesus. Jesus said he is the resurrection and the life. He is the one that's going to provide for us to have eternal life. As we talked about in class, there's no other way to get there except through Jesus Christ. And when we see this, we see within Jairus, the second character, an attitude of a person who believed that Jesus Christ had the ability to keep one from dying or to provide life for an individual. Someone he loved dearly, his 12-year-old daughter, was at the point of death. And he had the faith and the belief to be able to go to Jesus and ask him to perform a miracle to take care of this situation. So we see that he had a belief in Jesus Christ and the things that he claimed to be as far as the Son of God and what he could do. But then you want to think for just a minute about this daughter. She's 12 years old. We have some in here. You know, we were at the house today and there was a discussion going on, a little debate about who was the oldest among my grandkids. You're 2 months older than me. You're 14 days older than me, whatever it was. You know, we have an important thing about age. When you start getting on up to where some of us are getting to be, we want to try to put the brakes on that, but we still think about that. You know? Yes. But the important point for us to look at here, and I don't say this to try to scare anybody or intimidate anybody, but no matter what age we are at, we need to be thinking about the resurrection. Whether we're 12 years old, 40 years old, 60 years old, or 92 years old. This girl had a need to be taken care of as far as the resurrection was concerned. And that's what her daddy was concerned about for her in that sense. He was concerned that she not die. He wasn't thinking about that resurrection at that particular time, but he knew that Jesus had the power to do whatever he needed to have done in his life concerning the one that he loved the most. But then we think about Jesus comes on the scene, the girl has died, and he tells the people, asks the people, why are they making such a commotion about this situation? The girl's not dead, but is alive, and he brings her back to life. They laughed at him, thinking or knowing the fact that She was dead, physically speaking, and there was no hope as far as that was concerned in their lives. They didn't believe Jesus had the power to do what he could do. They laughed at the situation. You know, when you look around the world today, what's that situation like? Most people, when they think about life after death, if they even think about it, don't think about in the sense of their own life.
Is there a relative scorn?
They made fun of it. They made fun of it. And that's, you know, when it comes to the end of this life, as long as things are going well, we think lightly of it most of the time. We need to be very careful if we don't. If we're serious about death and the resurrection and things that are eternal in nature. These people didn't. Jairus wasn't that way. Jesus told him to believe and he would be able to see the truth. But the next group of people that I want to think about was Peter, James, and John, the inner circle of Jesus Christ. These were men that were handpicked by Jesus to be able to see the things that he did in life, the transfiguration, the miracles, the removing of demons. But you know, the fact of what they believed about the resurrection changed their lives completely, made them something completely different from what they were. You know, when Jesus called Peter, James, and John, he said, come with me and I will make you fishers of men. And it says that they straightway left their nets and followed Jesus. They changed their life because they believed he was the resurrection and life. And the only one of the three that we know that didn't die a martyr's death was John. The other two, James, we know, was beheaded. Peter said that he was crucified upside down. I don't know the truth of that or not. Either way, he was martyred. But it changed their lives into being something different than what they were, because they believed in Jesus Christ and his power of the resurrection. And then we look at Jesus Christ in the end. He went and he raised that girl from the dead. He gave her life again. Of course, she died later on, a physical death, because we can't escape that situation in our lives. None of us can. If we look at all these people that had contact with Jesus, they all died. And the fact of the matter is, we're all going to die too if Jesus doesn't return before we die. And so what is our attitude about the resurrection and about Jesus Christ? Are we looking forward to the resurrection because we know we're prepared to meet Jesus if he should return and we should pass away? Or do we have something that we need to take care of in our lives so that we can be ready for the resurrection? If you're not a Christian, that means the sound is off. If you're not a Christian, that means that you need to think seriously about what Jesus said to do in order to be prepared for the resurrection and becoming a Christian. Hearing what he has to say as the one with all authority in all the world. Believing in him as the Son of God. Being willing to confess him as the Son of God. Repent of your sins. And then be baptized for the forgiveness of sins. That's what a person does who's not a Christian. That believes in the resurrection, the power of Jesus Christ, to resurrect mankind and make him be able to live in eternity forever in heaven. It also takes into consideration things that Jesus Christ has said about the resurrection. We look at John 2 and verse 10, he said, be faithful unto death and I will give you the crown of life. If we believe in the resurrection as a Christian, it means that we're going to live our lives like Peter, James, and John. Changed life, faithful to the end. It means a death as a martyr, and so be it, because there's no other way as far as eternity is concerned. They showed us that that's the important part of living faithful no matter what. So as we look at our lives, what is our attitude toward Jesus and the resurrection? Are we prepared? If we're not prepared, I want to encourage us to think seriously about it as we stand and sing the invitation song.
Jesus is calling, calling, calling. Jesus is calling today. Why should I linger, linger, linger? I will arise and away. May your soul happy, happy, happy. see you again Sunday morning at 9:30 for Bible study hour, at 10:30 for worship. A couple cards here. It says, what a nice surprise, Lois and Seth visiting me. Thanks to everyone for the delicious cookies and beautiful poinsettia. I appreciate you thinking of me in such a thoughtful way. Love to all. Lucy Long also says, I still remember how wonderful and friendly you were to Harold and me. We always enjoyed the sermons, fellowship, and delicious meals. Lots of good memories. I'll post this in the back. And then also, right here it says, thank you for the cookies and the poinsettia. The cookies are good. This is from Sister Dixie Morgan. Want to add Tanya. She's at home not feeling well tonight. Add her to your prayers. Getting well soon there. Anyone else that we need to update or add to our prayer list this time? Evelyn Mitchell is home now. Okay. Continue to pray for recovery for Evelyn. We have the Fifth Sunday worship at the Meadows Assisted Living this Sunday at 2 o'clock. For anyone interested in going to that. Are there any other things that we need to mention this time before we dismiss? All right. Brother Roy, will you have our closing prayer?
Father, we're grateful for every soul that's come with us tonight. Help us to get home safely. Help us to look at our lives. Help us to be ready for the church. In Jesus' name we pray.
Oh, that's like